USAA knows dynamic duos can save the day, like superheroes and sidekicks or auto and home insurance. With USAA, you can bundle your auto and home and save up to 10%. Learn more and get a quote at usaa.com/bundle. Restrictions apply.
This summer, try the new Strato Frappuccino blended beverage at Starbucks. It's the classic blended iced coffee you know and love, now topped with a creamy layer of handcrafted brown sugar cold foam. Available for a limited time. Your Strato Frappuccino is ready at Starbucks.
Hey, it's Paris. You know I love sparkly things, right? Like stars. Duh. And thanks to Hilton and AutoCamp, I just slept under them. Picture me, serving looks by the fire outside my luxurious Airstream, making s'mores with the kids, while a national park is our backdrop. The great outdoors meets Hilton hospitality. That's hot. Explore all the new ways to stay at Hilton.com. Hilton for the stay.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
With a major selection of the looks your kiddos love starting at just $4 in the Walmart app, a new school year means a stylish new them. Who knew? Find skater skirts and Crocs that say, I'm casual but cool. Sparkly sneakers that say, it's my classroom, you're just learning in it. And preppy polos that say, I'm the teacher's pet, even if they're mommy's menace at home. Find their favorite styles starting at just $4 in the app. The Walmart you thought you knew is now new.
Hello and welcome to the Assassin's Creed Lorecast. We are so excited to bring you this show.
Our podcast is all about unraveling all of your favorite mysteries from the Assassin's Creed games. Each episode will be talking about a different topic in the Assassin's Creed universe. From Pieces of Eden, Solar Flares, and the Isu, to the Hidden Ones, the Order of Ancients, and of course, the Animus, we will seek to uncover it all.
So join us and maybe even take a leap of faith.
Hello and welcome to the Assassin's Creed Lorecast. My name is Shelby. You also know me as She-Cup, and we are back with another episode of our new Historical Characters series. So today, before we get into our topic, I'm going to let my co-host introduce himself.
Yeah, hey, I'm Austin or Teacup, and I'm excited to be here.
Me too, and I'm super excited to continue this new season. I know this is episode 3, but we've only had one kind of lore episode. Last week was our patron chat. So we're getting back into these characters. I know we've got a ton of different historical people to feature this season. So why don't you give us the intro and tell us who we're talking about today?
So last week we talked about George Washington. So we're going back about 1800 years. Back to BCE to 1st century BCE, Egypt, the reign of Cleopatra the 7th, as we talk about Cleopatra today.
So this is the Cleopatra. I did not realize there were 7 of them.
Yes, this is the Cleopatra that you think of when you think Cleopatra. So there were actually, this is a fact, that she is one of 7 sole female pharaohs. So there are at least 7 that we know about in the Egyptian pharaoh dynasties that were sole female pharaohs, which there were a lot of them. But so 7 is a small number. But I wanted to look up, is she the only one? Is she the first? But no, there are others beside her. So Cleopatra the 7th, or simply Cleopatra, as we know her, Cleopatra the Great, was queen or pharaoh of Egypt from 51 to 30 BCE, which is not a long time, 21 years. She was actually, for a while, co-rulers with her brother husband, Ptolemy the 13th. And so, yes, gross. They were married. They were siblings. Gross. After a falling out, she is exiled by her brother husband, Ptolemy. And through this, she would eventually ally herself with Pompey, but then he would fall to Julius Caesar, and then she would ally herself with Julius Caesar and bear him a son known as Caesarion. After the fall of Caesar, she would ally herself with Mark Antony, whom she would have 3 children. She would then commit suicide after Octavian, who would later become Augustus, would sack Egypt and imprison her and threatens to take her children to Rome. As a result, she commits suicide. Her cause of death is officially unknown. Though some believe that she was bitten by a snake, some believe she drank a poison. The most common thing is that she drank the venom of like an Egyptian viper. As I said, she is one of 7 female pharaohs in Egypt. Cleopatra ruled as an absolute monarch, which means she had absolute authority. She didn't answer to any councils or legislatures or doing anything like that. But she is one of the pharaohs that allowed for the most religious diversity. She built temples to Egyptian gods as well as Greek gods, and allowed for the construction of a Jewish synagogue to be built. And from what I can understand, is one of the first ones built in the area. And so that's a really big deal, for especially when Egypt and the pharaohs is very much like a monarchy married with a theocracy kind of thing. Like the pharaoh is the head of the Egyptian religion. They believe that they are the embodiment of the gods and a god in their own right. So to allow for religious diversity like this would be a big deal for the Egyptian people.
But something I want to add here, it makes sense that she would allow more for religious diversity than other Egyptians would, because she's not of Egyptian descent. She's of Greek descent. And obviously, as we know, the Greeks are very pantheistic. Like they have tons and tons and tons of gods. So I think it would make sense for somebody who comes out of that culture to allow for more religious diversity than somebody who comes out of a strict, like, these are our gods and these are only our gods, holding to more of that kind of like stricter religiosity like the Egyptians would have.
Right. And so with all of these, especially these more older rulers, I always like to kind of research like just a like very, very surface level internet research of like, what is the consensus on the quality of their rule that I can find across historians. And historians do seem divided on this, whether or not she was a good, or sometimes I like to use the word effective ruler. While she considered to be by most historians to be decisive and ambitious for great ambitions, and she did allow Egypt to be fully annexed by Rome, which some Egyptian historians view as a bad move. And a lot of things, any loss of autonomy in those things is a bad move for a country. There are historians who believe that.
Yeah, I mean, it's bad. It's bad for Egypt, but it's good for Rome.
And this would ultimately be like not the only cause, but kind of like a catalyst for the eventual downfall of the pharaoh dynasties, the dynasties of the pharaohs of Egypt. Cleopatra is sometimes considered the last pharaoh. And so that's a big deal. Some historians also say that her success is not really her own, as because she's a puppet queen of Rome. Rome is actually pulling all the strings, and all the decisions that she's made is being made by Rome. And then later that like Mark Antony is really the one who is ruling Egypt for the later half of her rule, which I don't necessarily like outright disagree with, but I don't think that, based on the little I know about Cleopatra, I don't think she would allow Mark Antony to just outright rule through her. Mainly because, you know, she leads an entire rebellion to take out her brother from the throne.
I think that Cleopatra is very much ruled by lust, but I don't think that she would let that go so far as to allow someone to control her.
I definitely agree with that as well. She might not, I could see her being manipulated, but not controlled, I think is what I would say.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's the consensus. Do you have any thoughts on the actual real person of Cleopatra before we move into her involvement in the series?
I don't know. I do have mixed feelings on her as a historical figure because, like, I know a lot of people tend to hold her up as like, oh, a female ruler back in these days, like how cool. But like, she wasn't a very good person. Again, as you said, she lets Egypt be completely annexed. She marries her husband or her brother as her husband. Like, I think she's very much ruled by lust and like, I think that Cleopatra was not interested in ruling a country. I think she was interested in power. And so that never makes a good leader, in my opinion. So I am not a fan, particularly of her. And I think some of these things that we're talking about, we very much see reflected in Assassin's Creed Origins, which I'm sure you're about to get into.
Yes, very much so. And like one of these, like being ruled by lust, is going to come up in our evidence for which side we think they are. Buckle in for that. So for Assassin's Creed involvement, we first see mention of Cleopatra in Assassin's Creed 2, which is so interesting because, you know, we're like, oh, Origins is so far removed from 2, but we do get this mention in the Montenegro vault in the auditory like basement. We see a statue of the assassin Amunet, who we are told killed Cleopatra with the use of poison. So that is the first mention we see of Cleopatra. We then get a more proper introduction to the historical character in Assassin's Creed Origins, the start of what is considered the RPG trilogy, where she serves as a primary ally and quest giver to Bayek and Aya. Aya has a particular devotion to her. And I think that there's a kinship there because Cleopatra is of Greek descent and so is Aya. Mm-hmm. And like both have been shunned for that. Like Bayek's father does not want Bayek to marry Aya because she's not fully Egyptian. Like that is an actual tension in their relationship.
But at the same time, the question comes as to why. Why is that tension? Why does it exist?
Right, because the Greeks conquered Egypt.
Right. And so when it comes to Cleopatra specifically, I completely understand that. And of course we have hindsight as 2020, but people in Egypt are suspicious of people with Greek descent because the Greeks conquered them. And when it comes to Cleopatra, they should be suspicious because Cleopatra allows Rome to conquer them. And Rome is just really an outgrowth of the Greek Empire. So I can completely understand that suspicion.
Right. And I think that like one thing that people have to understand is like the Greek like conquering of the world is not just like a physical land conquering or a political alliance conquering. It is a cultural conquering. We see this in a lot of these worlds, especially in like the Egypt, Jerusalem, Israel, Palestine, Iraq, Afghanistan, Iran, like all of these areas. It is a fight, and these cultures, there's a lot of people who are holding fast and be like, we do not need to be erased by the Greek culture. We do not need to be absorbed into the Greek culture. And I could see someone like Bayek's father, who is a member of the Magi, being really against that and saying, no, we need to hold fast to our Egyptian traditions and we need to remain pure in that way. Because it's a thing of like when the Greeks conquered, they began like erasing other cultures. And that was very scary for the cultures that they conquered.
And I can honestly understand Bayek as a Magi also being like that. But I think interestingly enough, Rome has this kind of facade of, oh, well, you can keep your culture. You're just now part of our world too. And like, we're more of a melting pot. Whereas when you were conquered by Greece, it was like, okay, now you're Greek. But in a way, I think that the Roman way of doing it is almost a little bit more cruel because you're more of a second class citizen. You're more of a, oh, well, you're not really Roman. And that's a big tension, you know, the way that Greeks and the way that Romans operated. A lot of times we think of it, oh, it's just exactly the same thing. And even I just said, you know, Rome is an outgrowth of Greece. And that's true. But at the same time, they do very much approach their political enemies and specifically the people that they conquered differently. And it is a huge tension.
And so with Assassin's Creed in this, like Cleopatra very much in the beginning of the game represents like this grassroots movement that's going to overthrow Ptolemy, who we learn is a puppet ruler of the Order of Ancients, and really just doesn't like, it seems that Cleopatra is fighting for the freedom of people. Now, Aya very much agrees with that. Bayek, on the other hand, is like, no, she's a pharaoh who has power. Like, she's never going to put the people before her own power. Which, you know, both Bayek and Aya are blinded by their own vengeance in a lot of ways. But I think Bayek sees Cleopatra for what she is a little clearer than Aya does.
I agree with that completely. I think Aya is very blind to Cleopatra specifically. Bayek, of course, is blind to other things, but I think Aya is very blinded because she, like as you've said before, Aya sees herself in Cleopatra. Aya identifies with Cleopatra as, you know, women from Greece, women who have power but also feel slighted by society. And because she feels kinship with her, she doesn't want to see the red flags.
Yes, I agree. And so after Caesar comes into play into Egypt and conquers Egypt, he storms in, he throws out Ptolemy, he does all of this. It is revealed that Cleopatra betrays them, locks them in the vault in like Alexander the Great's tomb. And she's sided with Caesar, who is revealed to be the leader of the Order of Ancients. What Septimius calls the father of understanding, which is a big deal. And so Aya and Bayek are obviously, you know, furious, but they don't go after Cleopatra right away. They go and deal with Flavius and Septimius, and then what comes into Caesar. It is here that, you know, Brutus and Claudius come into play here, and the like traditional assassination of Julius Caesar comes into play. So we don't see Cleopatra again in game until the end of Origins, where Aya, who is now Amunet, visits Cleopatra, urging her to submit to Octavian Caesar's rule, which I find interesting. So Brutus and Claudius come to Egypt and ally themselves with Bayek and Aya and the Hidden Ones. And then Aya is obviously present for the assassination of Julius Caesar. She's one of the first ones to actually strike him with a knife or her hidden blade. And then Octavian leads a campaign against Mark Antony, who is a super Caesar like apologist with Caesar's friends. Like, you know, if you've ever read The Thing, the very famous speech, "Friends, Romans, countrymen," that's Mark Antony. Like, these are all big things. So it implies that Octavian Caesar or Augustus Caesar is on the side of the Hidden Ones, which he's not on our list for this thing to do that. But if you have read anything about Augustus Caesar's rule, he is the furthest thing from an ally to the Hidden Ones as anyone can get.
Yes. But I question how far this relationship that Aya Amunet has with him. Like, I mean, I think that they could just be partnering together to take down someone that threatens them both. I don't necessarily think him working with her on a couple missions is equivalent to him being allied with the Hidden Ones.
That's probably fair. But I just thought that interesting, especially with that. And like, even like, I don't think even like Brutus and Claudius and all these other senators realize to the extent of how much a dictator Octavian would end up being.
Yeah, I think I agree with that.
And so Cleopatra would then agreed to submit to Octavian's rule if Aya took Caesarion and trained him as a hidden one. She then drinks the poison, and that is how she dies in the Assassin's Creed universe. So that's her involvement in the game. I think we can go to a mid-break and then kind of do our evidence and say what we think.
All right, well, let's head to the mid-break.
Eczema isn't always obvious, but it's real. And so is the relief from Ebglyss. After an initial dosing phase, about 4 in 10 people taking Ebglyss achieved itch relief and clear or almost clear skin at 16 weeks. And most of those people maintain skin that's still more clear at 1 year with monthly dosing.
Ebglyss, lebrikizumab, LBKZ, a 250 milligram per 2 milliliter injection, is a prescription medicine used to treat adults and children 12 years of age and older who weigh at least 88 pounds or 40 kilograms with moderate to severe eczema, also called atopic dermatitis, that is not well controlled with prescription therapies used on the skin or topicals, or who cannot use topical therapies. Ebglyss can be used with or without topical corticosteroids. Don't use if you're allergic to Ebglyss. Allergic reactions can occur that can be severe. Eye problems can occur. Tell your doctor if you have new or worsening eye problems. You should not receive a live vaccine when treated with Ebglyss. Before starting Ebglyss, tell your doctor if you have a parasitic infection.
Searching for real relief? Ask your doctor about Ebglyss and visit ebglyss.lilly.com or call 1-800-LILY-RX or 1-800-545-5979.
Una silla de masajes puede parecer extravagante. 8 configuraciones diferentes, intensidad ajustable, además es calefaccionado. Y se siente tan bien. Sí, una silla de masajes puede parecer extravagante. Y 2, bueno, aún más. Pero cuando esas sillas de masajes vienen con un auto, se vuelven bastante prácticas. El nuevo Volkswagen Tiguan 2025 con funciones premium como los asientos delanteros con masaje disponibles. Solo parece extravagante.
Love espresso, drip coffee, and cold brew? With the Ninja Luxe Cafe, if you can crave it, you can brew it. Espresso, balanced. Drip coffee, rich. Cold brew in a flash. With Barista Assist technology, you brew with no stress and no guesswork and make perfect silky microfoam hands-free from dairy or plant-based milks. Shop the Ninja Luxe Cafe at ninjakitchen.com.
Ma cos'è? Shoot! Shoot a flying demon!
Quite a carriage you got there. Where did you buy it, if you don't mind me asking?
Ask all you want, Freddy. You'll never get an answer.
Damn it all. Was it my eyebrows?
Yes, and your face, voice, and body.
What have you done? We used them. They were not ready for firing. You could have gotten us all killed. Let me see. His breath is more fatal than our cannons. Only when you two fools are shooting them. There, try it.
Welcome to the middle of the show. This is where we talk about all the things that have to do with the lore of Assassin's Creed and not the lore cast. So the first thing we always do is shout out to all of our wonderful patrons. Thank you all so much for all of your wonderful support. We love and appreciate all of you. And if you want to be a patron, if you want to get your name read out on the show, if you want to come on the show once a month, if you want to get your name read out every single week, all you have to do is become a patron at certain tiers. And, you know, at certain tiers, at the mentor assassin tier, or no, at the master assassin tier, you can come on the show once a month. And so all the rewards go up from there. If you are interested in supporting us financially, this is the best way to do it. We know that not everybody can do that, though. And so the next best way is to leave us a rating or a review, which you can do on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. So we do have one to read today, which comes from Jason I, and he commented on the Desmond character deep dive. And he said this: Desmond was the best. In 2012, when we had the end of the world on the TV news, I was finishing Assassin's Creed 3. And when it comes to an end, I was so sad. Rest in peace, Desmond. You are my favorite. I think every single Assassin's Creed fan can identify with that. Desmond was the best. And if you disagree that Desmond was not the best, I don't know if you're an Assassin's Creed fan. So thank you, Jason, for that awesome comment. We appreciate it so much. The next best way to stay in contact with us is via Discord. We have a server where we're talking about Shadows, we're talking about Dragon Age Veilguard, we're talking about Baldur's Gate 3, we're talking about all your favorite new games and old games too, so definitely come over and hang out with us. We have new people joining every single day, and you'll meet some awesome people there. And if you want to stay in touch with us, learn more about us, get some of our merch, you can do all of that at cupspodcasting.com, our website. So I think with that, Austin, we can get back into it.
You set the table, put on a playlist, even made the lasagna from scratch. And now you're wearing it. OxyClean Max Force Spray tackles tough, set-in stains the first time. Adulting is hard. Fighting stains shouldn't be. OxyClean Max Force. It's not clean unless it's OxyClean.
Today's top story, the flavor merger of the century between the Peanut Butter Group and Chocolatey Corp. Joining me is a PBC executive.
Thanks for having me, Barry.
Now, how did you know the merger and the byproduct of it, Jif peanut butter and chocolate flavored spread, would be a success?
You know, it was a gut feeling, a rumbling, if you will. Besides, they're two titans of taste.
Very true. Goes great with pretzels.
And pancakes.
Apples too, I bet. Try Jif PBC today.
In the time it takes us to say, we're using Folgers Instant Coffee, seamlessly blended with water and ice. A splash of whatever kind of milk is your thing. And gotta get that caramel drizzle. All to make a toasty, roasty, caramel iced coffee. You could be enjoying it. Every damn sip of it. Damn right. It's Folgers Instant.
Malaka! Malaka! Malaka!
But that madman, the self-proclaimed Bishop of the Ruins, is our biggest critic. He calls our playing the devil's bagpipes.
I will sleep with anyone as long as they agree to be executed in the morning.
Like Xantivis.
He was well satisfied with his bargain. Who is this toothsome fellow?
My queen, this is,
Well?
It is a generous offer. But I've already pledged my life to this woman.
Aya, you have chosen well.
So our evidence is not as robust as our George Washington evidence was. And part of that is that this is just how history works and kind of like lends its way in the game to one way or the other. But there is some evidence for her being an assassin. She does seem, at least on the surface, to value the general well-being of her people. Like, she strives for religious diversity. She tries for the betterment of Egypt. She tries to get all of these things of, you know, bettering her people. So I think that is a general plus in her side for the assassin. She is an ally of Bayek and Aya for a long time and agrees with their movement and doing things. And then she does things in her actual historical reign, like religious freedom, that would bend to a more assassin outlook. And so I would say that is part of the evidence for an assassin. Templar evidence, while she is an ally, she is motivated by her own personal glory rather than altruistic reasons or like charitable reasons or like serving the people. I just have to point out that from the game evidence, the any man can sleep with me or die is major Templar vibes.
Which side note, that is part of our intro outro to the break sounds this season. So yeah, I have to agree that is total Templar behavior. And Bayek is just kind of like, yeah, I'm good.
She supports Caesar, who is the literal leader of the Order of Ancients, the Proto-Templar organization. She supports Mark Antony, who is a Caesar apologist. And she seems to be in league with Rome, who at the time is a Order of Ancients supporter. Rome tends to be like that seat of power, and is that seat of power for a long time, because the Catholic Church also becomes a seat of power for the Templar Order. And so these are all things that tend to lead to the Templar evidence. Now, I would say that Cleopatra would likely side with the Templars. I think what I'm going to land on is that she would be an unknowing puppet of both sides.
That's your final answer?
I think so.
I don't know. I'm really torn on this one. because we do see her working with both sides of the conflict. Like canon in game, she works with both Hidden Ones and Order of Ancients. She just does. I think that her personal philosophies of life, as much as we know of them, I think that she sides more with the Templars. And that's because I think that her primary focus is on power and amassing power to protect herself from her brother, from her political enemies. I think she's very concerned with amassing political power to protect herself and her children, her child. And so, the place to amass political power is not with the assassins. It's with the Templars. And I know, of course, again, Hidden Ones, Order of Ancients. But yeah, so I think she definitely leans more ideologically toward the Templars. But I do agree with you that I think that she, in her search for power, she opens herself up to a lot of vulnerability to be manipulated by other people. And I think the Templars probably do this more than Bayek and Aya do, because I think that Bayek and Aya, when they're founding the order, while yes, we have to be secretive, we have to be flying under the radar, I don't really think that they're at the point of like backstabbing their allies unless their allies have betrayed them, which we know that Cleopatra does betray them. And so for me, I definitely think she's manipulated a bit more by the Order of Ancients than by Bayek and Aya.
I see that point there. I mean, those are really good points that you have brought up. I think that it is interesting what you brought, like the power, because she tells Aya to take Caesarion and train him as a Hidden One because she knows that he will be used as a political game, or an Octavian will kill him. Because Cleopatra, when Caesar is killed and Octavian rises to power. Now, I'm not sure about this, but like Octavian is Caesar's nephew, I believe. So not his actual son. Cleopatra claims that Caesarion is the only true heir to succeed Caesar. So he is a threat to Octavian. So it makes sense that she then sends him with Aya, because at least like he might be a Hidden One, but he'll be safer than if Octavian gets a hold of him. So I did look up what actually happened to him, and he is killed by Octavian in 31 BCE. And so that's a little historical liberty that Assassin's Creed has taken.
Yeah, and I mean, I do think that Assassin's Creed, like, it's in their prerogative to take historical liberties, and they do. But back to Cleopatra, I just think that, especially as how she is depicted in Assassin's Creed, she is not depicted as someone who is concerned with strategy. She's not depicted as someone who is really thinking through all of her friends and allies and like what they can give her. Like she very much is, in Assassin's Creed at least, she's very much like a Bacchus figure, a Dionysus figure of like, let's get drunk and party, let's have fun, let's have sex. Like those are the things she's concerned about, not necessarily like creating a dynasty, making sure her power is secure. I think she's very much focused on the carnal things of this world rather than like protecting her children. And I think that might be something she regrets later in life as, her son, almost dies, but she's not a very forward thinking individual. She is a very short-sighted leader. And I think that that's a huge failure on her part. It's a reason why she's captured and killed,
Yeah. And it's just like around the thing of like, there's a Greek philosophy called hedonism, which is like that you give in to all of these desires of like flesh and other things like that. And it's very popular at this time. And so she would have like really embraces that and embodies that in a lot of ways, which doesn't make for a good ruler.
Exactly. And I agree completely. She is the definition of hedonistic.
But yeah, any last thoughts, or otherwise we can wrap it up?
Yeah, I think I've kind of given you all my thoughts. So if you're ready to wrap it up, we can do that.
Let's do it.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for listening to this episode of the Assassin's Creed Lorecast. Thank you to Austin for doing all the research. This has been an interesting one. Both George Washington and Cleopatra are characters in the game. So I'm really excited to get into some characters that maybe don't appear, or maybe don't have as much to do with the main storyline of a game. So some of those will be coming soon. But once again, Austin, thank you for doing the research. This has been a really interesting, fascinating episode. And if you have thoughts out there, you're listening and you're like, oh my God, no, they're totally wrong. She would be with the assassins or with the hidden ones, and here's why. Leave us a comment. And if you leave it nicely, we'll read it out on the podcast. So definitely let us know your thoughts. And with that, thank you for listening to the Assassin's Creed Lorecast. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening to the Assassin's Creed Lorecast. You can find us on Twitter at AC Lorecast.
If you have any lore questions or topics to unpack, join our Cups Podcasting and More Discord server. It's the best place on the internet. You can also support us financially through our Patreon. Find us on patreon.com/Assassin's Creed Lorecast. The Assassin's Creed Lorecast is part of the Robots Radio Network. For more information about the Robots Radio Network, join the Discord server via the link in our episode's description.
If you enjoyed the show or learned something new today, please subscribe, leave us a review, and join the Patreon. And if you enjoyed our intro and outro music, make sure you give a big thank you to Pipeman Studios. Thank you, Pipeman. Thanks again for listening to the Assassin's Creed Lorecast. And always remember, Assassins, stay in the shadows to serve the light.
Want to live better?
We got a lot of work to do.
Join Chris Hemsworth in National Geographic's new Disney Plus original series, Limitless. Live better now.
I'm diving headfirst into cutting-edge science to uncover 3 powerful secrets to living better right now. The growth that occurs through any challenging experience is really what we seek.
Chris Hemsworth stars in Limitless. Live better now. Now streaming on Disney Plus and Hulu.
It's showtime.
This episode is brought to you by FX's Alien Earth, the official podcast. Each week, host Adam Rogers is joined by guests, including the show's creator, cast, and crew, in this exclusive companion podcast. They will explore story elements, deep dive into character motivations, and offer an episode-by-episode behind-the-scenes breakdown of each terrifying chapter in this new series. Search FX's Alien Earth wherever you listen to podcasts.